Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a powerful question as we begin. When was the last time you truly thought about yourself? Not about your job, not about your bills, not about what people expect from you, but about you, your purpose, your calling, your greatness. Because the truth is this, most people spend their entire lives thinking about everyone else's opinion, but they never stop to think about who God created them to be. And that's why so many live beneath their potential. Most people go through life without ever truly stopping to ask themselves, who am I really? They wake up, they go to work, they chase the paycheck, they handle responsibilities, but they never pause to examine their own identity. And here's the reality. If you don't know who you are, you will unconsciously live as who other people tell you to be. That's why self-awareness is not optional. It is the foundation of greatness. Every transformation in your life begins with a decision to become aware of yourself, your gifts, your purpose, your calling, your potential. Without that awareness, you are like a seed buried under the soil that never realizes it was designed to grow into a massive tree. Think about this. The enemy of greatness is not failure, it's unconscious living. When you're unconscious, you let life happen to you instead of creating life on your own terms. When you're unconscious, you settle for average because you're not even aware that extraordinary is possible. But when you wake up and become aware of your true identity, when you start thinking about yourself always, you begin to see the picture of who we're meant to become. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That image begins to pull you toward your destiny. Now here's the hook. Self-awareness is not about finding yourself. It's about becoming aware of what God already placed inside of you. You don't have to go on a long journey to search for it. You already have it. The problem is most people are too distracted by noise, opinions, and circumstances to ever recognize it. That's why I tell people don't live on autopilot. Don't live on default. Begin to ask better questions. What am I created to do? What strengths do I carry that nobody else has? What's the unique fingerprint I'm supposed to leave on this world? Because when you start asking better questions, you get better answers. Imagine driving a car without ever looking at the dashboard. You'd have no idea how fast you're going, how much fuel is left, or when something needs fixing. That's how most people live their lives. They never check their own internal dashboard. Self-awareness is the dashboard of your destiny. It tells you what habits are helping you, what habits are hurting you, what direction you're going in, and whether that direction aligns with your purpose. And until you start paying attention, you'll keep running on empty without even realizing it. Another powerful truth is this: self-awareness precedes self-improvement. You cannot improve what you will not acknowledge. If you don't recognize the areas where you're strong, you'll never maximize them. If you don't recognize the areas where you're weak, you'll never transform them. And here's the danger. If you ignore yourself, you end up living a version of life that is far smaller than the one you were designed for. But when you become deeply aware of who you are, you give yourself permission to grow, to stretch, to evolve into the person who can carry the weight of greatness. And let me remind you, this is not about arrogance. This is about awareness. There's a huge difference. Arrogance says, I know everything. Awareness says, I know who I am, I know what I carry, and I know where I need to grow. That's humility and power working together. When you live with that kind of awareness, you don't need validation from others. You're not swayed by criticism, and you're not inflated by praise. You know who you are, and that unshakable awareness makes you unstoppable. Here's another hook for you. If you don't define yourself, the world will define you, and it will always define you smaller than you are. That's why you can't afford to leave your identity in someone else's hands. Society will label you. People will try to box you in. Circumstances will try to limit you. But when you are aware of your true self, you refuse to live by those limitations. You begin to operate from the truth that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you were created with intention, and that you were designed to impact the world in a way only you can. So the question is not whether you have greatness. The question is whether you are aware enough to recognize it. And once you do, once you step into that self-awareness, you ignite a fire that cannot be put out. That fire will fuel your growth. It will shape your decisions, and it will lead you into a life of extraordinary purpose. And it all begins with this: think about yourself always, because awareness is the first step to transformation, and transformation is the gateway to destiny. Most people have been taught that thinking about themselves is selfish, but the truth is the exact opposite. Real love begins with you. If you don't love yourself, you will never have the capacity to love anybody else in the way they deserve. That's why the scripture says, love your neighbor as yourself. Notice the order. It doesn't say love your neighbor instead of yourself. It says as yourself, which means if your self-love is weak, the love you give to others will be weak. If your relationship with yourself is broken, your relationships with others will be broken. You cannot pour water out of an empty cup, and you cannot give energy that you don't have. Think about it. How many people are living their entire lives drained, depleted, and resentful because they keep giving to everybody else while never taking the time to fill themselves back up? They confuse self-love with arrogance, but they are not the same. Arrogance is rooted in insecurity. Self-love is rooted in awareness. Arrogance screams for attention. Self-love doesn't need applause because it already knows its worth. When you truly love yourself, you stop begging for acceptance. You stop tolerating mistreatment. You stop lowering your standards to fit someone else's expectations. Self-love sets the standard for how the world treats you. Here's the hook: if you don't respect yourself, others won't respect you either. If you don't value yourself, others won't value you either. The energy you carry is the energy you teach people to respond to. And too many people are living on discount because they never realized they set the price tag on their own life. Loving yourself is not about being better than anyone else. It's about becoming the best version of yourself so you can show up fully in every area of your life. Think about the last time you boarded an airplane. Before the plane takes off, the flight attendant says, in the event of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on first before assisting others. Why? Because if you can't breathe, you can't help anyone else breathe. That's the perfect picture of self-love. When you love yourself, you breathe life into your spirit, into your confidence, into your health, into your purpose. And when you're full, when you're alive, when you're overflowing, then and only then can you pour into others without running dry. But here's the problem. Most people don't even know what self-love looks like in practice. They think it's a spa day or buying new clothes or taking a vacation. But true self-love is deeper. It's discipline. It's setting boundaries. It's saying no to what drains you and yes to what grows you. It's investing in your growth, in your mind, in your body, in your faith. It's choosing to forgive yourself for your past mistakes instead of living in shame. It's speaking to yourself with kindness instead of constant criticism. Self-love is not surface level. It's soul level. And here's another hook for you. You will never rise above the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will attract relationships that confirm that. If you see yourself as incapable, you will only chase opportunities that keep you small. But when you see yourself as valuable, when you see yourself as powerful, when you see yourself as chosen, you begin to operate in alignment with that truth. Suddenly, doors open that you thought were closed. Suddenly, you find yourself in rooms you thought you'd never enter. Suddenly, you realize that the love you give to yourself was the very key to unlocking the love, respect, and opportunity you wanted from the world. So don't ever feel guilty about loving yourself. Don't ever apologize for setting a standard for your life. Don't ever shrink to make others feel comfortable. The more you love yourself, the more love you'll have to give to others. And when you live from that place, not only do you transform your own life, you become an example to everyone watching of what's possible when a person decides to rise, not because of outside approval, but because of an inside decision. Here's a truth most people don't realize. The world does not pay you based on your potential. It pays you based on the value you believe you bring. That's why two people can work the same job, put in the same hours, and yet one of them earns double or even triple what the other does. It's not because the universe is unfair. It's because one has embraced their value and the other has not. The marketplace is a mirror. It reflects back not what you want, but what you believe you're worth. If you keep undervaluing yourself, life will keep handing you discounts. Think about this. If you walked into a store and saw a luxury watch priced at $10, what would you think? You'd probably assume it was fake. But if you saw the same watch priced at $10,000, suddenly you'd pay attention. Why? Because the price signals value. In the same way, the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, the way you believe in yourself, it sets the price tag on your life. If you believe you're cheap, people will treat you cheap. If you believe you're valuable, people will pay the price to have access to you. Here's the hook. People don't pay you what you're worth. They pay you what you believe you're worth. That means the first sale you have to make is to yourself. If you don't buy into your own greatness, why should anybody else? Too many people are out here trying to convince others of their value while still doubting it internally. You cannot ask the world to believe something about you that you don't believe about yourself. Belief is the seed. Income is the harvest. Now let's get practical. Every raise you've ever received, every promotion you've ever gotten, every business deal you've ever closed was directly tied to how you positioned your value. When you undervalue yourself, you overwork and under-earn. When you value yourself, you leverage your time, your skills, your knowledge, and your presence. And here's where it gets powerful. The marketplace doesn't just buy your product or service. It buys the belief you have in what you're offering. That belief either elevates you or limits you. The tragedy is that most people spend more time comparing themselves to others than they do building their own value. Comparison will always convince you that you're not enough, but self-belief will remind you that you are more than enough. Stop asking, why would someone pay me that much? And start asking, why wouldn't they? Stop saying, I don't think I deserve that, and start saying, I've been created for this. When you shift your internal dialogue, your external results follow. Let me drop another hook on you. Your value is not determined by where you start. It's determined by what you believe about your ability to grow. Some of the wealthiest people on the planet began with nothing, but they refused to let their starting point dictate their worth. They trained their minds to see themselves as valuable before the world ever recognized it. And because they carried that belief, opportunities began to chase them down. That same principle applies to you. The moment you upgrade your belief about your value, you upgrade the way people respond to you. So ask yourself right now, are you living on clearance? Are you walking around with a discount tag on your forehead? Or are you showing up like the masterpiece you were designed to be? The answer to that question will determine your income, your influence, and your impact. Because money is not just about skill, it's about belief. Influence is not just about talent, it's about confidence. Impact is not just about opportunity, it's about how you value yourself in the face of that opportunity. When you think about yourself always, you begin to understand that you are the one setting the ceiling on your value. Nobody else. Not your boss, not your clients, not your environment. You. And the moment you decide to raise that ceiling, everything in your life rises with it. Because the marketplace will never pay you more than you believe you're worth, but it will always rise to meet the level of value you believe you carry. Whatever you focus on expands. That's not just a motivational phrase, it's a law of life. If you focus on lack, you will see more lack. If you focus on problems, you will find more problems. But if you focus on growth, on possibilities, on solutions, suddenly opportunities begin to appear where they were invisible before. Your mind is a magnet, and the strongest pull in your life is directed by where your attention is going. Too many people spend their lives focusing on everything that's wrong, and then they wonder why things never get better. But the truth is, your life will always follow the direction of your dominant focus. Think about this. When you buy a new car, you suddenly start noticing that same car everywhere on the road. It was always there, but now your awareness is tuned to it. That's how life works. What you give your attention to multiplies. If you wake up every morning focusing on stress, you will see stress everywhere you turn. If you wake up focusing on gratitude, you will notice blessings you used to overlook. The lens you look through determines the picture you see. That's why it's so important to take control of your focus. Because focus creates expansion, whether in the right direction or the wrong one. Here's the hook: energy flows where attention goes. If your attention is on excuses, your energy will shrink. If your attention is on execution, your energy will rise. You can't focus on fear and expect to live in faith. You can't focus on defeat and expect to walk in victory. The soil of your life will grow whatever seed your mind plants, and focus is the water that determines whether that seed flourishes or dies. The danger is that many people live in a cycle of negative focus without even realizing it. They're constantly talking about what they don't have, what they can't do, and what isn't working. But here's the reality. The more you talk about what you don't want, the more of it you attract. The more you obsess over your limitations, the larger they become. And that's why so many remain stuck, because their focus is locked on their prison instead of their potential. The door to freedom is already open, but they're staring at the bars. Let me make it plain. If you want your finances to grow, stop obsessing over your bills and start focusing on creating value. If you want your health to improve, stop focusing on your sickness and start focusing on building strength. If you want your relationships to thrive, stop focusing on what people lack and start focusing on the love, gratitude, and connection you can bring. Wherever your focus goes, your results will follow. That's not opinion, that's principle. And here's another hook for you. What you magnify becomes your master. If you magnify your problems control you. If you magnify your potential propels you. Focus is not passive. It is power. It's the steering wheel of your destiny. If you don't grab hold of it, life will drive you to a place you never intended to go. But when you take control, when you intentionally decide what you will and will not give attention to, you become the author of your story instead of a victim in someone else's script. So start asking yourself daily, what am I choosing to magnify? Am I magnifying the obstacles or am I magnifying the opportunities? Am I magnifying fear or am I magnifying faith? Because the answer to that question will determine not just how you feel today, but the results you experience tomorrow. Your focus is either creating a future filled with excuses or a future filled with expansion. And the choice is yours. Most people spend their whole lives waiting. They wait for someone to notice them. They wait for someone to validate them. They wait for someone to give them permission to shine. But let me tell you the truth. If you keep waiting, you will waste your life. The world is not going to suddenly stop and clap for you. The crowd you're waiting on isn't coming. The validation you think you need isn't necessary. God already validated you when He created you. He already approved you when He gave you life. And if you're still waiting for an outside voice to tell you it's time, you'll miss the opportunity that's been in front of you the whole time. Here's the hook. The longer you wait for permission, the longer you delay your destiny. Destiny doesn't operate on other people's timeline. It operates on your decision. That means the moment you stop waiting and start walking, doors begin to open. The moment you stop asking, am I good enough? And start declaring, I was made for this, everything shifts. Permission is not something others hand to you. It's something you give yourself. Now, let me paint this picture. Imagine you're standing in front of a locked door, waiting for someone to come and open it. You wait a year, you wait 5 years, you wait 10 years, and nothing happens. Then one day, you finally grab the handle and realize it was never locked in the first place. That's exactly how opportunity works. Most people's lives stuck, not because the door is closed, but because they've been conditioned to believe they need somebody else to open it. And the truth is, it's been open all along. Think about how much time people waste on hesitation. They hesitate to launch the business. They hesitate to write the book. They hesitate to speak their truth. They hesitate to make the move. And in the process, they bury their potential under fear and doubt. But hesitation is the enemy of greatness. Every moment you hesitate, you lose momentum. Every moment you pause to wonder if you're enough, you delay the very blessings that are waiting for your obedience. Here's another hook. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move without permission. Confidence is saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'm still going forward. I don't have all the resources, but I'm still going to act. I don't know how it will all come together, but I trust that as I move, provision will meet me on the path. That's walking in authority. Authority doesn't beg. Authority doesn't wait. Authority declares and then steps forward. And the truth is, walking in authority doesn't mean being reckless. It means being rooted. Rooted in the knowledge that you were created on purpose, for purpose. Rooted in the belief that you don't need to compete for your place at the table because the table was already set with a chair that has your name on it. Rooted in the understanding that your worth does not come from applause, approval, or achievement, but from the undeniable fact that you were designed with divine intention. The danger of waiting for validation is that you end up living by other people's permission slips. And people will only give you permission to play small because your greatness makes them uncomfortable. If you're waiting for people to cheer you on, you'll be stuck forever. But when you stop needing the noise, when you stop craving the applause, when you decide to step into your power, regardless, that's when your life changes. So hear me clearly. Stop waiting, start walking. Stop asking, start acting. Stop begging for a yes from people who don't even see the vision God gave you. And start moving with the authority of someone who knows they're already chosen. Because permission is not given by the crowd. It's activated by the calling. And the moment you understand that, you step into a version of yourself that doesn't just chase opportunities. You attract them. Most people think that if they could just get more money, their whole life would change. They think if they had a better job, if they lived in a bigger house, if they had more resources, then everything would finally fall into place. But the truth is, resources don't change your life. Identity does. You can hand $1 million to a person who still sees themselves as broke, and they'll find a way to lose it. You can put someone in a position of power who still sees themselves as powerless, and they'll misuse it or give it away. Your reality will always rise or fall to the level of who you believe you are. Transformation begins not with what's in your hand, but with what's in your head. Here's the hook. If you become more, you will attract more. It's not about chasing resources. It's about becoming the person who naturally draws them in. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are aligned with. That means if you want to change your outer world, you've got to start by upgrading your inner world. Money is not the starting point, mindset is. Opportunity is not the first step, identity is. Think about the caterpillar. It doesn't become a butterfly by getting new wings from the outside. The transformation happens from within. The caterpillar was always designed to fly. It just had to go through the process of becoming. In the same way, you don't need to wait for external resources to confirm your greatness. You need to shift your identity so that the person you are becoming matches the life you are asking for. Too many people are waiting for the outside to change while the inside stays the same, but it never works that way. The inside always creates the outside. And here's another hook. If you try to fix your life without fixing your identity, you'll always sabotage yourself back to the level you believe you belong. That's why lottery winners lose everything within a few years. They got money, but they never got the mindset to sustain it. That's why some people land opportunities they prayed for, but then they walk away because deep down they never felt worthy of it. You cannot outrun the identity you hold about yourself. Sooner or later, it catches up. That's why the greatest investment you can ever make is not in things, but in yourself. The books you read, the mentors you learn from, the habits you build, the faith you grow, all of these shape your identity. And when your identity elevates, your reality has no choice but to follow. You don't chase money, money chases you. You don't beg for opportunities. Opportunities seek you out. You don't plead for respect. You command it by the way you carry yourself. Everything around you changes because you changed. The key is to stop asking, what do I need to have? And start asking, who do I need to become? If you want wealth, become the kind of person who manages money wisely. If you want influence, become the kind of person who speaks with conviction and lives with integrity. If you want success, become the kind of person who doesn't quit at the first obstacle. Everything you desire is waiting for the version of you who is capable of sustaining it. Until you become that version, you'll keep circling the same mountains. So ask yourself right now, what identity am I living from? Am I living from fear or faith? Am I living from scarcity or abundance? Am I living from weakness or strength? Because whatever identity you operate from will set the ceiling for your life. And the good news is, identity is not fixed. It can be transformed. The moment you decide to think differently, to see yourself differently, to believe differently, you step into a new reality. You don't need more resources to change your life. You need a new revelation of who you already are. You don't need to wait for someone to hand you opportunities. You need to become the person who creates them. And the moment you do that, resources begin to show up, doors begin to open, and transformation stops being something you dream about and starts being something you live.